Hello developers, I'm Jeremy, and today we're going to be talking about Vonage's .NET SDK, and specifically we're going to talk about the builder pattern that it implements. With me today is Guillaume. He's one of the maintainers of the .NET SDK. Hey Guillaume, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm great, thanks.
All right, so the builder pattern. You wrote about this recently, right?
Yeah, I use it a lot in the SDK, even more than people expect. And I wanted to write down why, because I think it solves more problem than we give it credit for.
So let's start with the basics. First of all, why does this pattern even exist?
So usually it shows up when you're creating an object that has a lot of configuration. So we're talking about optional fields, required fields, validation. So things that shouldn't be mixed together. And the idea is to build complex objects step by step instead of all at once. And in my case, I bring other ideas on top of that. So it goes a bit further than the classic definition.
Okay, so let's try to make this concrete. Can you show us an example?
Sure. So I'm going to show you something called a connect action from the SDK. It's from the voice API, and this is how you basically call an endpoint. So what I can do there is create one. But will it work at runtime? I have no idea. Nothing tells you there what's required, and you're forced to basically go to the documentation. And this is where you realize that actually there is one mandatory property, and that is endpoint. So once you know that, what you do is you come back and you fill everything in. And this is how it looks like.
Okay, but now which of these actually matter? Timeout is a string and event method is a string.
You're right. Timeout is a string while we actually expect a number. Event method is technically, we have an item for that in .NET, which is a HTTP method. And what do you put in machine detection? I don't know. So the thing is, nothing prevents you from setting event method to something that is completely invalid. You don't have any type safety, you don't have any validation. The object is mutable on top of that. So even if you build it correctly, someone can come along, change it later. And even if we manage to say that endpoint is actually required, if a required field gets added in a future version of the SDK, nothing tells you. It just silently breaks at runtime.
Okay, so the problem is not just the readability, it's that there's no guardrails, right?
Exactly. And that's what builders help me fix. First, with proper encapsulation, meanings no public setters, and then immutability. So once it's created, it can't be changed. The validation occurs at construction time, and so you either get a valid object or you get a clear error, but you don't get a silent failure somewhere down the line.
And you know up front what you need to provide, right?
Yeah. And that's honestly why I reach for it even for things that aren't particularly complex, because all of those benefits compound together.
Okay, so what does the builder pattern actually look like?
Let me show you another example. So instead of stuffing everything into either a constructor or an object initializer, you can build it progressively. Each method call expresses intent, so you know exactly what you're setting.
And if I don't need TTL, I just don't call TTL.
That is correct. I can remove it. But you'll see that my builders go a bit further than the standard definition. I use a fluent API approach to guide what you can do. So each method resends a specific interface that only exposes what makes sense next. So it's not just a builder, it's more like a path that tells you what you're allowed to do at each step.
Okay, so the API itself is kind of steering you as you write your code.
Absolutely. You can't call things in the wrong order, and you can't mix things that don't belong together. Let me show you what it looks like in practice. I'm going to use an example from our Verify v2 API on how to initiate a two-factor authentication verification. So if I go there and use what's called in the SDK start verification request. So I call build to initialize my builder, and look at what the autocomplete offers. So if I do this, The only thing I have is with bronze. One single option. The rest is basically from the object class and we don't care about it. That's it.
The IDE is just basically telling you what to do.
Exactly. So if I type with bronze Vonage and now autocomplete, the only option is with workflow. Still one choice. Workflow is basically the channel that you want to use for verification. So it can be SMS, email, WhatsApp, voice, whatever, but it's mandatory.
And it's just walking you through each of these required fields one by one.
Exactly. So once you fill that in, now we have a lot of options. So I'm going to add a couple. First, let's say I want to set a code myself there. Let's say I want to use an existing template for my message. And then there's this one, skip fraud check.
Not with fraud check passing in false as an argument.
Exactly, there's no boolean in there. Fraud check there is enabled by default. So there is a boolean behind, but it's already set at true by default. If you want to disable it, you call skip fraud check. The intent is right there in the name. So you don't have to guess what false means or to provide a boolean value entirely.
Man, that's a small thing, but it makes a real difference when you're reading code 6 months later and trying to figure out what you were thinking.
I agree. And so to finish it, either you can call more optional things or you can call create to end up with your request. And the object is built. Either it's valid and you get an instance or you get an error, but it's there, validated and immutable.
And the whole thing without ever having to open the documentation.
Which is exactly the point.
Okay, now not everyone loves this. What's the usual pushback to the builder pattern?
So I've seen two in my experience. The first one is that it requires quite a lot of code to set up and you have to test and maintain that code. So that's a real cost. Now, I have ways to reduce that significantly, and maybe we'll talk about in another video. And secondly, people say it's quite overkill for simple objects.
So that seems fair on the surface.
It seems, but it's actually a trap. The reason is actually simple objects never stay simple, they grow. And when they become too complex, you then need to rewrite everything and introduce breaking changes. But we know that this never happens in the real world. So you just end up with a mess. In SDK design especially, you ship something, people build on top of it, and then you can't just go back and change how the object is built.
Is there ever a case where you genuinely wouldn't use the builder pattern?
A few, but it's minimal. I would say things that don't require validation at all, like a DTO or an object that just deserializes some JSON. Actually, in the SDK, we have a good example. We have an archive object in the video API, and it has a constructor that takes 18 parameters. It looks terrifying, but it's never called directly by developers. It's a JSON constructor that exists purely for deserialization. And that's a legitimate case for where builders are not super useful.
Yeah, it would just make it more complex if you tried to use the builder pattern there. So the rule is less about complexity and more about whether there's anything to validate. Is that right?
Yeah, that's my point.
So for anyone watching who's already used the Vonage SDK, you've probably already seen this pattern without thinking about it too much.
Yeah, hopefully now they understand why it's there, because it's usually the question I get.
Yeah. And if you want to go deeper, Guillaume wrote an article about this. I'm going to link it in the show notes below. But Guillaume, thanks for walking through this with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I had a great time, and well, see you next time.
For more information on any of Vonage's APIs and supported programming languages, subscribe to this YouTube channel, join our Slack community, and check out our blog at developer.vonage.com.